Constitutional Law 1, Directive Principles of State Policy, Part B, uh, Liberal Intellectual Principles under Classification of Directive Principles of State Policy, steps taken by the government of India and the state governments for implementation of Directive Principles of State Policy to establish welfare state, and relation or correlation between directive principles and fundamental rights, that is part 3 versus part 4 of the Indian Constitution. Dear student friends, you are aware that I am Dr. Rega Suryarao, principal, retired Priyadarshini Jan Prabodhini's aided law college, Satara, Fulton, Satara district, Maharashtra, India. In the last class, that is lecture number 10, I explained in detail, about directive principles of state policy in brief, meaning, and various articles and classification. So far as the classification of directive principles is concerned, there are three categories. One is socialistic principles, second one is Gandhian principles, third one is liberal intellectual principles. After completing Gandhian principles, the time was over, and my cell phone accommodates up to 1 hour 6 minutes only. Then it gets stopped automatically. That is why I stopped at Gandhian principles. Now I will take up liberal intellectual principles, third point, and what steps were taken by the government to implement the directive principles of state policy, that aspect, and finally the most important topic, conflict between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy, we have to take up. Now, in the last class, I told you the directive principle, in view of so many developments made due to socio-economic changes, the government has taken so many steps for implementation of directive principles of state policy by making constitutional amendment, by passing central legislations and special legislation, by establishing boards like Silk Board, Handloom Board, Coir Board, etc., and by introducing so many schemes, rural employment schemes, agricultural employment schemes, etc., and the directive principles of state policy were classified as socialistic principles, Gandhian principles, and liberal intellectual principles. So, socialist principles envisage social, economic, and political justice. Gandhian principles envisage to fructify the dream welfare schemes of Mahatma Gandhi during Swaraj movement, local self-government agitation movement. So different articles were explained in the last class. And third one is liberal intellectual principles is latest. They envisage some more special amenities. Now I wish to take up third category of directive principles of state policy. First one is socialistic principle. Second one, Gandhian principles, I completed in the last class. In third classification is liberal intellectual principles. So these principles, liberal intellectual principles, are designed for liberalism and ideology. Liberalism and ideology. Liberalism and ideology. Articles 44, 45, 48, 48A, 48A, 49, 50 and 51 lay down the various guidelines relating to liberal intellectual principles. First one is Article 41, Uniform Civil Code. This is the most important article. According to Article 44 of the Indian Constitution, the state must pass appropriate legislation for uniform civil code. Here, criminal law is common to all. in India, criminal law is common to all, irrespective of Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jain, Jews, etc. So far as personal law is concerned, the personal law of Hindus differs from Mohammedan law, and similarly it differs from Christian. So personal law is varies from religion to religion. Hindus one category, Muslims one, Christians one, Jains like this. So that is the reason why it is because of the reason the personal laws differ from one religion to another religion, some problems are taking place. For example, a Hindu can must have only one wife living. If there is no monogamy is a condition precedent for marriage in Hindu law. But in Mohammedan law, a Hindu Muslim male can have four wives at a time. Then during the lifetime of four wives, he can get married to fifth one, come home, profess talak, 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 and that woman gets divorced, and he can have four wives. So Hindu can have one wife. Monogamy is strictly followed, but monogamy is not strictly followed in a Muslim law. So he Muslim can have four wives. So for this purpose, what happened is some Hindus are getting converted to the Mohammedan, and some Hindus or other religion people are professing Islam. They are converting into Mohammedan and getting second marriage, third marriage, fourth marriage, etc. But the Supreme Court in Sarla Mudgal versus Union of India made it very clear. He made it clear 1995. So the change of religion, if anybody wants to profess Islam, if he wants to become a Mohammedan, it must be for good purpose. It must not be for bad purpose to to have monogamy. And so even though a Hindu after getting converted into Mohammedan law, Mohammedan becomes Mohammedan, we must not be allowed to go for bigamy or polygamy. If he does so, he is punishable for bigamy under Indian Penal Code. So this is the decision given in this. Similarly, in Shabanu Begum, Muhammad Ahmad Khan versus Shabanu Begum case, this is old position. This is popularly known as Shabanu case. What happened in this case was Muhammad Ahmad Khan versus Shabanu Begum. This topic I explained in detail in family law maintenance lecture. You please refer family law 1. And I also delivered in detail about criminal procedure code, maintenance of wife, children and parents. The details of this case I have explained in that case. Anyway, what happened is, in this Shaban Muhammad Ahmad Khan with Shabanu Begum, by professing talak, husband gave divorce to wife went to district court, and under section CRPC, the husband is asked to pay maintenance. Then the matter went up to High Court and Supreme Court. Ultimately, Supreme Court said 125 CRPC is a common law. It applies to all Hindus, Muslims and Christians. So it is applicable to Hindus also. Then Muslim heads gave agitation, made agitation. No. Our Muslim male is not under obligation to pay maintenance to wife during Iddat period, and they brought some agitation. In that agitation, one central government, central minister also belonging to Muslim community resigned job. That is National Front government time, and subsequently, in order to satisfy the Muslim heads, the government of India passed legislation, protection of Muslim woman, protection of divorce, protection of interest of Muslim woman, divorce Muslim woman, protection of Muslim woman Act divorce of 1986 Act was passed. According to that, a divorced Muslim woman gets maintenance or not is left to the option of the husband. If the husband is good, he is kind enough, he can give maintenance. Otherwise, that woman will have to depend on parents or brothers, whomsoever. So, before this Protection of Women and Divorce Act 1985, Muslim male also had obligation to give maintenance to wife. After the passing of the act, Muslim male had no obligation. If he is good, he will give, otherwise no. That is optional. And subsequently, the central government recently abolished the system of talak, and there is no more talak and divorce. There is no more divorce by professing talak. If any Muslim male professes talak, is found guilty of committing an offence and is punishable. So this talak system is no more a law. So uniform, however, there is no uniform civil code in India common to Hindu, Muslims and all. So Hindus are having Hindu law, Muslims or Mohammedans are having Mohammedan law, Christians are having separate law. So the constitution through Article 44 gave direction, envisaged the state government to implement, to pass legislation, central legislation common to all territories of India, to entire the whole of India. But in spite of several attempts by government, the central government is not able to pass legislation, common legislation for Hindu Muslims. So that is uniform Article 44 directs the state government, direct the central government, union government to pass legislation prescribing common law, uniform law to all Hindus, Muslims and Christians, but it has not yet been fructified. Next, Article 45 speaks about free and compulsory education. Originally, the original article of Article 45 under Indian Constitution gave direction to the state to give free and compulsory education to the children up to 14 years. That is from beginning to ending, birth to first standard to 14 years of age, up to 10th standard preferably, 14 years of age. That was the. But after in 2002, 86th Amendment, Constitution 86th Amendment was made, and this Article 45 is modified. So before this 86th Amendment, Article 40, according to Article 45, the state should provide, the central government or state government should provide free and compulsory education from the beginning to 14 years. But after this amendment, this Article 45 is confined to child care up to 6 years. The state must endeavor to take child care up to 6 years of age. Up to 6 years of age. That is this thing. Then in pursuance of Constitutional Amendment 86 Constitutional Amendment 2002, new Article 21A has been inserted to Indian Constitution. This Article 21A envisages free and compulsory education to the children from 6 years to 14 years of age. 6 years to 14 years of age. And this Article 21A, earlier Article 20, the right to education, was a directive principle under Article 45, according to which free and compulsory education from first standard to 14 years of age. That was the position. And then in course of time, right to education was included in Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, that is in Mohini Jain case, followed by Unnikrishnan case. Suppose it was a part and partial of Article 21. Suppose one wing, one of the rights included in Article 21. In 2002, separate amendment act was passed, 86 Amendment Act, this right to education is separately, independently made fundamental right. So, providing it is the state must provide free and compulsory education to children from 6 years to 14 years, according to 45, up to child care up to 6 years. 6 years. So this is Article 45. So like that, subsequently, the Right to Children to Free and Compulsory Education Act also 2009 also was passed. 2005 was passed, and similarly legislations were passed by the state governments also. Now, right to education today is a fundamental right guaranteed under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. Next, 48, liberal intellectual principles. Article 48, Organization of Agriculture and Animal Husbandry. So, this article directs the state governments that the state must endeavor to take up agriculture on scientific lines, make necessary provision for undertaking agriculture on scientific lines. So the agriculturists must be provided all sources of amenities in instruments, tractors, latest technology they have to implement. They have to fertilizers and all. So similarly, not in the state must assist in agriculture industry scientific and latest technologies to improve the output so as to meet the increasing needs. Similar high technology should be applied in animal husbandry. So latest technologies for breeding, poultry farms, dairy farms, etc., to get more yield subject to healthy and nutritious values. This is 48 liberal. And 48A, protection of environment and wildlife. Article 48A was added to Indian Constitution under 42nd Amendment Act in 1976. So, protection of environment and wildlife. Environment means surroundings and under which a man works and lives. Environment. Dear student, you have separate subject on environmental law. So today, protection of environment was a fundamental directive principle under Article 48A. But this protection of environment and wildlife have been added to Article 21. They made fundamental right under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, because after 1978 Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India, before 1978 the Article 21 gave protection to life and liberty, but after Maneka Gandhi case, the liberal approach followed. Supreme Court in so many decisions, subsequent decisions, added so many items as fundamental rights. So here, accordingly, pollution free environment also is part and partial of survival of human life. If this pollution is not controlled, recently the people descendants of Hindi and the descendants of Delhi are witnessing a lot of pollution, and the government is taking a lot of precautionary steps to prevent this pollution also. So the environmental pollution, protection of environmental pollution, wildlife in the sense all animals, deer, tigers, peacock, birds like peacock and all, forest life, wildlife in forests also. Wildlife Protection Act is called Forest Acts Forest Acts were passed, so many. So if anybody who commits offense under this will be imprisoned. So we are witnessing Salman Khan is facing this problem for having hunted a deer in shooting place. So this is so Article 49. So there are so many structures, statutes, and constructions of national and historical importance. So whatever structures, constructions, places, monuments, and other objects of national importance are there in the country, they must be protected, they must be properly maintained, they must be they get prepared and all. Suppose some big statues, big historical constructions are there. For example, Charminar in Hyderabad, for example, Juma Masjid in Hyderabad, and like that, some statues, some so many statues may be there, so many masjids may be there, so many visiting places may be there, like that. So the places of Mahabalipuram, caves, so many things. Such constructions are there, some monuments and all. They must be Taj Mahal, most important Taj Mahal. They must be maintained correctly. They must be protected, preserved, and maintained. So the states the Constitution through Article 29 directs the state to preserve, and protect those objects of national importance. Next article is Article 50. Article 50 directs the state to separate judiciary from executive. So I have gave very big lecture on Indian administrative law, a doctrine of separation of power, executive, legislature, and judiciary. Here, according to this Article 50, the 50 through Indian Constitution through Article 50 directs the state to separate judiciary from executive. So here in India, from the beginning, the judiciary got separated from executive. Executive in the sense Council of Ministers headed by Prime Minister followed by President of India is executive at central level. Council of Ministers headed by Chief Minister followed by Governor at central level is executive. Legislature means Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha headed by President of India is legislature at central level. Legislative Council, Legislative Assembly followed by Governor is legislature in state level. The type of separation from executive and legislature and executive got separated. In district administration, district and session judge will take care of judicial function. District collector will take care of executive functions. So this topic is in public services. Executive is separated from judiciary also. Next, last article is promotion of international peace and security. In public international law, I will explain about this in public international law. See, the public international law is one of the branches of public law. Public international law is law of nations. Deals with relation between various countries in the world. In this world, there are innumerable number of countries. So 250 countries are there. Out of 250 countries, 195 countries are the members of United Nations organization. The recognition of two countries is pending. Because United Nations, just like how a workman wants to join in trade union as member, the global countries want to join as member for United Nations. If when any country, India, all big countries are the members since long back. But if any country wants to join as member in United Nations, it should apply to United Nations. And in the beginning stage, initially, United Nations will give de facto recognition, and after getting de facto recognition, that state is asked, that country is asked to maintain international peace and security, and it must be able to maintain peace and security, and we should be able to maintain international relations. So some conditions are to be fulfilled. If the state or country which is given temporary recognition, that is provisional recognition, which is called de facto recognition, if after getting de facto recognition, that country will have to prove that it is able to maintain international obligations and friendly relation, then it will be given permanent recognition. Permanent, then that is called de jure recognition, and it will become a member of the United Nations. So though there are in COVID-19, we say that 250 countries it is affected, those so-called 50 countries, they are not the members, and the application of 2 countries is pending for this thing as per Google. So this is then when we very frequently we are receiving news from World Health Organization, but every country cannot do it on its own. This every country which is a member of United Nations must act in strict compliance to the directions of the United Nations Organization General Assembly and its specialized agencies, International Court of Justice, International Labour Organization, World Health Organization, and others. If any country violates the United Nations norms, that country will be appropriate action will be taken. At the same time, any country which is the member of United Nations must respect the friendly relations and treaty agreements. There are bilateral treaties, multilateral treaties, United Nations multilateral treaties, United Nations conventions will be there to discuss about airspace, outer space, and international pollution, and their customary principles of international law should be followed. The decisions of the international tribunal should be honored. The decisions of International Court of Justice also should be honored. These, the state, the constitution, through Article 51 of the Indian Constitution, directs the country to to comply with the international conditions and international obligations. So these are the with the three charters. Three charters are completed. Then one is socialistic principles, Gandhian principles, and liberal intellectual principles. So the directive principles of state policy have been completed. Here, dear friends, the directive principles of state policy, the very name itself indicates that they are the directions or guidelines to the state. State in the sense of central government. State in the sense of central government. Constitution is a written document, is between people and state, that is government. So people give power to government to rule them, and the government must rule the people as per the constitutional directions of directive principles of state policy. Directive principles of state policy are the directions to the state, that is central government, to rule, to establish the welfare state and social economic democracy, and maintain, uplift the four pillars: justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. Keeping in view these 4 pillars, these 3 directive principles are designed, giving direction to the state to implement. So in order to state under the constitution, under Article 14, the constitution under Article the constitution under part 4, 16 plus 4, 20 articles gave direction to state to implement these. So what steps in pursuance, in strict compliance to 20 articles given by constitution, the government of India and other state governments have taken lot of steps. So the Indian constitution was amended and four amendment acts were passed. 4 amendment acts were passed. First one is 42nd Amendment Act was passed in the year 1976. In that Article 39 was 39 is modified. Article 43 3A is added for workers' participation in management. Article 48A is added for protection of environment. Article that is one thing. Secondly, 44 constitutional amendment was taken in 19. So, to implement the directive principles of state policy, the government of India passed 42nd Constitutional Amendment and added 3 articles to the 4 articles to the Constitution. 3 new articles and 39 revised. Second Constitutional Amendment Act was passed in the year, that is 44 Constitutional Amendment Act. It took place in 1978 for removal of inequalities. 86th Constitutional Amendment was passed in the year 2002 and on education. It revised Article 45. Earlier, Article 45 made provision for free and compulsory education from the beginning to 14 years. But in after 86 Amendment Act in 2002, Article 45 was revised and confined to child care up to 6 years. And a new Article 21A is added. This Article 21A made provision for free and compulsory education from 6 years to 14 years of age. At the same time, Article 21A, the right to education, which was earlier directive principle, later after Maneka Gandhi case became part and parcel of Article 21. It was included in Article 21 as a fundamental right, and now after 2002, 86 Amendment Act, right to education is made independent fundamental right. Then fourth constitutional amendment was 97 constitutional amendment was took place in 2011, and to have democratic control and professional management of cooperative societies. That for that 97 this was done. Similarly, so many boards, programs, sex. Next, constitutional amendments 4. Next, acts. Minimum Wages Act 1948 was passed. Child Labor Protection and Regulation Act 1986 was passed. Maternity Benefit Act 1961 was passed. Indian Maternity Benefit Act was 2002 something. Revised Act also was passed. Equal Remuneration Act 1976 was passed. So many SC/ST Atrocities Act also was passed. So these are the various acts also passed. Next, boards. Silk Board, Handloom Board, Handicrafts Board, Choir Board, etc. were established to protect the interest of cottage industry people. So many programs to protect the welfare of agricultural laborer, industrial laborer, providing employment and other assistance. And earlier there was Jawahar Rozgar Yojana was there, removing this national employment program. Subsequently, that Jawahar Rozgar Yojana was deleted. Now there is a Sampurna Gram Rozgar Yojana. It was started in 2001. Next, Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program 2016 is there. National Forest Policy 1988 is there. So many things were followed. So these are the in pursuance of the directions of directive principles of state policy under Part 4 of the Indian Constitution. The Government of India and other state governments have taken so many executive and legislative actions to implement the directions in an attempt to establish welfare state as per preamble slogan to uplift four pillars of the Constitution, that is justice, liberty, equality, and fraternity. Now, the last topic for discussion is correlation between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy, or relation between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy. Directive principles of state policy. Similarly, Part 3 versus Part 4 are fundamental rights versus directive principles. Here, see, human rights or individual rights are broadly categorized under two heads by SAPRO committee: justiciable, non-justiciable. And Universal Declaration of Human Rights as the civil and political rights of greater importance. Social, economic, and cultural rights are of second importance. The human rights of greater importance have been enlisted in fundamental rights, and the human rights of comparatively less importance have been enlisted in directive principles of state policy. So, in SAPRO Committee Report 1935, individual rights were divided into two categories. One is justiciable rights and non-justiciable rights. Justiciable rights are those rights which can be protected in court of law. Non-justiciable rights are those rights which cannot be protected through court of law. Means, if justiciable right, that is the fundamental right, is affected, the aggrieved party can file a case in High Court or Supreme Court and get his right implemented. If a directive principle is not complied with by the state government, say for free medical, free legal aid or anything, he cannot approach the court. So, the most important individual rights which are inherent, which are sine qua non for survival of human beings, are sine qua non for survival of human beings are fundamental rights, and less compared to less rights are directive principles of state policy. Part 3 of the Indian Constitution, containing Article 12 to 35, that is the 24 articles, Article 30, right to property, was deleted and it is made a constitutional right subsequently under Article 300A, and 24 minus 1 and subsequent constitutional amendments, 6 articles are added. Now the fundamental rights are 29. Similarly, Part 4 of the Indian Constitution, containing Article 36 to 51, that is 16 articles, plus 4 articles in subsequent amendment acts, totally 20 articles, lay down various provisions relating to the directive principles of state policy. Fundamental rights and directive principles are causally connected, interrelated. They are designed to establish welfare state. A state to establish welfare state and to create egalitarian society and to uplift the preamble slogans of justice, liberty, and equality and fraternity must strictly adhere to Part 3 and Part 4 of the directive principles of state policy. Supreme Court of India acts as custodian of the fundamental rights, and directive principles are strictly followed by the state, that is central government, and also state government, by providing amenities to the people for establishment of social welfare state. So these are fundamental rights are directive principles. Fundamental rights are individual rights. Fundamental rights are negative rights. Fundamental rights are justiciable rights, mean they can be enforceable in court of law, whereas directive principles are guidelines to the state to implement these guidelines for welfare of the people. but no one can approach the court for implementation of the court. That is Article 31 says. Article 37 also says a state to for successful governance of state, the application of directive principles is compulsory, mandatory. That is the slogan given by this. So now there has been a conflict of opinion as to the question. When fundamental rights are good in one way, directive principles are great in one way. So when in a case, if a conflict takes place between fundamental right and directive principle, which is to be given priority? Which is to be given priority? So there are few views on this. In first instance, fundamental rights being individual rights must be given priority, preference over directive principles. In the second view is directive principles being social rights must be given preference over fundamental rights. The third view is we cannot say that fundamental right is sometimes fundamental rights will is preferable, sometimes directive principle is preferable depending upon the circumstance of the case. Fundamental rights and directive principles are interrelated, correlated, causally connected, and the harmony must be maintained between fundamental right and directive principles. That is why third view. So depending upon the situation, sometimes fundamental right will supersede directive principle, sometimes directive principle supersede fundamental right. So before going to give clarification, I tell you, when a judge give judgment, some sources are there, legislation is there, custom is there, precedent is there. For example, legislation means according to section 5 Hindu Marriage Act, child marriage is not valid. According to custom, uh, degrees of prohibited relationship, if a man marries his sister's daughter, uncle's daughter or aunt's daughter, that is they come within the degrees of prohibited relationship, that marriage is void according to legislation. But if the custom permits, the South Indian practice, a man can marry his own sister's daughter, a man can marry his uncle's daughter, paternal uncle's daughter, maternal uncle's daughter, or paternal aunt's daughter. It is, but as per degrees of prohibited relationship legislation, it should be the marriage should be declared invalid. As per custom, marriage should be declared valid. So the court would try to unite the couple, not to separate the couple. In such case, custom is given preference. So custom, legislation, precedent and other sources are there. By applying which principle the judge will be able to do more justice, maximum justice, that will be applied. Sometimes custom supersedes legislation, sometimes legislation supersedes custom, sometimes precedent supersedes both custom and legislation. Similarly, in one direction, in first view, fundamental rights are deemed to be declared to be more important rights than directive principles. That is why fundamental rights should be preferred. That is first view. Second view is fundamental right refers to only one individual. Directive principle refer to the society as a whole, public as a whole. The interest of one individual should be outweighed for the interest of public as a whole. That is why directive principle should be preferred. That is the second view. Third view is no, we cannot say, depending upon the circumstances of the case. Sometimes fundamental right is given important, sometimes directive principles is given is important. The harmony, correlation, interrelation between the two should be strictly followed and harmony should be maintained. That is the third view. Third view is correct. What is this? So first view is fundamental right. When there is a conflict between fundamental right and directive principle, fundamental right which can be protected through court of law must be given preference. This view was laid down by the Supreme Court for the first time in 1951 in State of Madras vs. Champakam Dorai Rajan. Today Tamil Nadu state, earlier State of Madras. So in this case, the court said that fundamental rights must be given fundamental right being justiciable rights, individual rights, inherent rights, they should be given preference over the directive principles, because when there is a conflict between part 3 and part 4, fundamental right and directive principle, fundamental right should be given priority. After this decision, so court said that part 3 is more important than 4. If part 4 is denied like this, there is some problem. Then some constitutional amendments were followed. Constitution first amendment was taken place in 1951. So Constitution Fourth Amendment was taken place in 1958. Constitution 17th Amendment took place in 1964 to give some preference to directive principles. According to Champakam Dorairajan case only, what is the position? According to the present rule position, fundamental right should be given preference over directive principle, but sometimes social interest should be protected. In order to protect social interest, public interest, and the fundamental right should be liberalized. To that effect, so 3 constitutional amendments were passed. First constitutional amendment in 1951, second constitutional amendment in fourth constitutional amendment in 1958, 17th constitutional amendment in 1964 were followed in order to give some preference to the directive principles of state policy. Even after that, in Golaknath versus State of Punjab, in 1967 Supreme Court said that, the Supreme Court said no. Fundamental right, Parliament cannot fundamental right under Article 368 of the Indian Constitution. So Article 368 of the Indian Constitution empowers the Parliament to amend the Constitution. So the amendment chapter I will explain in detail. The preamble chapter, the basic structure, amendability of Constitution I explained in detail, dear friends. You please refer to my lecture on preamble to have some idea about basic structure and amendability. So here Golaknath, it is said that Parliament may have power to amend Constitution. The Parliament can, by virtue of its power conferred under Article 368, can amend any part, but it should not touch fundamental right. That was the decision given by Golaknath. The decision of Golaknath created earthquake in constitutional history, and in order to overshadow Golaknath decision, the Constitution 24th Amendment took place, was passed in 1907, and 25th Amendment was passed in 1971. Constitution 24th Amendment and 25th Amendments were passed. So here, subsequently, to outweigh the Golaknath decision. Subsequently, Kameshwar Singh versus State of Bihar also, Jammu Part 3 was given preference. So all the cases, Champakam Dorairajan, Golaknath, Kameshwar Singh, all the cases gave preference to fundamental rights rather than directive principles. In Kameshwar Singh versus State of Bihar, the validity of Jamindari abolition laws was challenged. The Jamindari abolition laws which violated the fundamental right was challenged. The court said that the Jamindari abolition law which violated fundamental right was declared void. So all these cases were decided in favor of part 3. So when there is a conflict between 3 and 4, 3 should be preferred. Fundamental right should be preferred. Second view is fundamental right is only one individual right. Directive principle relate to public right, lot of social right. Sometimes the social right should be given preference, outweighing the one individual. That is the view laid down in the second view. So according to this, there is a case. Muhammad Hanif Qureshi versus State of Bihar, 1958 Supreme Court. In this case, what happened was, according to Article 21 to Article 25, Clause 2A, freedom of religion, a Mohammedan is having a fundamental right guaranteed under Article 25, Clause 2A to offer cow on Bakrid. Bakrid, it is a religious ceremony. Secondly, so many professionals are surviving and getting their livelihood by cow slaughter. So here, the government of Bihar passed a legislation banning slaughter of cows even during Bakrid. Then it was challenged. The law passed by the Bihar government banning cow slaughter is violative of fundamental right guaranteed under Article 25, Clause 2A and Clause 2A and Article 19, Clause 1G, 19(1)G. This is anyone can take up any profession of his choice for livelihood. Article 21A of India and 21G of Indian Constitution guarantees every citizen of the country to take up any profession of his choice for his livelihood, provided it should not be illegal. In this, but the Supreme Court said that slaughter of cows the slaughter of cows is not a condition required in a religious ceremony. It does not come within the meaning of Article 25, Clause 2A. And secondly, the cow slaughter in the interest of pious beast, most auspicious pious cow, it is a sin. Then the government wanted to abolish the cow slaughter, and in the interest of public, an individual interest of religious for ceremony or an individual's interest of livelihood cannot be challenged. In this particular case, Muhammad Hanif Qureshi versus State of Bihar, cow slaughter which was challenged was not admitted by the court, and cow slaughter was abolition of state government law abolishing cow slaughter was upheld as constitutional. In this particular case, Part 4 was given priority over Part 3. Okay? So that is the imposition. Next, in Keswananda Bharati versus State of Kerala, 1973, the court said, the Supreme Court by 7:6, 13-member bench decided this case regarding the amending power of the Constitution. The Constitution can amend Constitution any area, anywhere, fundamental right or directive whatsoever. The Parliament, Indian Parliament under Article 368 has enormous power to amend any part of the Constitution except basic structure of the Constitution. Basic structure means basic feature of the Constitution should not be curtailed. But according to this, the Parliament, according to this decision of the Supreme Court, the fundamental right can be amended in order to give preference to directive principle of state policy, and the court also made a clause. That the basic structure of the Constitution cannot be curtailed. So what is basic structure? It is not defined. So some listed items are republican form of government, democracy, and so some limited items are preambular slogans, so justice, liberty, equality, fraternity, some. But there is no any clarity, there is no any definition, there is no any test for. So that is why, for example, dear friend, which is most important part of human body? Heart. So that is the heart basic structure. Because heart stops, man dies. Next, another says So how can, if heart is good, brain is not good, what do you say? Brain is also basic structure, but man is alive, but brain doesn't function. He doesn't know what to do, what to do, what to eat. There is no use. Then another man says, okay, heart is okay, brain is okay. If eyes are not there, what is the use? And eyes is added in basic structure. Some dancer comes, singer comes. My tongue should be basic structure previous. Tongue is added as basic structure. Some choreographer, dancer comes. My hands and legs are my basic structure. Like that, the basic structure, which was very few items were listed, the list of basic structure was getting expanded from time to time through so many remarkable decisions of the Supreme Court. Similarly, Article 21 was being expanded from time to time after post-Maneka case. In Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India 1978 Supreme Court, most three articles, Article 14, 19 and 21, were declared as the most important articles and described as golden triangle. So this is with reference to case 1 Andre Bharti case. The third most important case in favor of part this is this thing. So here this is view. According to Muhammad Hanif Qurishi and case 1 Andre Bharti, part 4 should be given preference over part 3. Now third view is sometimes fundamental rights and directive principles are designed to establish welfare state. So there can be no fundamental right without directive principle, no directive principle without fundamental rights. So fundamental rights and directive principles must work together jointly to establish welfare state and create egalitarian society and uplift the ideals and goals enshrined in preamble of our constitution: justice, liberty, equality and fraternity. So we cannot outweigh part 3 to give preference for part 4. We cannot outweigh part 4 to prefer part 3. Part 3 and part 4 are equally important. Sometimes, depending upon the circumstances, part 3 and part 4, part 3 will prevail, sometimes part 4 will prevail, because fundamental rights and directive principles are causally connected, interrelated. So there is a harmonious relation between fundamental right and directive principle should be maintained. Sometimes, depending upon the circumstances of the case, if fundamental right is to be preferred, fundamental right is to be given preference, setting aside directive principle. If directive principle is to be given preference, it is to be uplifted, setting as point. So some harmony should be maintained. So this was this case in Kerala Education Bill 1958. So though for part 4 cannot override part 3, importance of part, even though part 4 for directive principle do not override part 3, the importance of part 4 cannot be denied. So the harmony between two must be maintained. In Unikrishnan case, in Unikrishnan versus state of Andhra Pradesh, what happened in this case? Before that, right to education was challenged. Mohini Jain versus state of Karnataka. Mohini Jain, a lady, applied for a medical seat in Karnataka government, and that according to Karnataka government regulation of capitation fee, a local act was there. According to that, local students 10,000, non-merit student 25,000, other state student 40,000. In those days, 40,000 rupees was a very big amount. That is in prior to in 90s. Then Mohini Jain went to court, and the Supreme Court said right to education is part and parcel of Article 21. At that time, right to education was included in Article 21 of the Indian Constitution, and the state was directed to give admission to Mohini Jain. So thereafter, all managements in Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu went to Supreme Court, because our India is a developing country. India is not providing a adequate number of medical colleges. The private managements are given opportunity to create to establish medical colleges. established medical colleges, uh, medical colleges, but without any government funds, when medical private managements are running medical colleges and engineering colleges, if the government tells that right to education is part and parcel of fundamental right, and seats must be given for meager fees, we won't be able to maintain the colleges, we won't be able to pay salaries and everything and other infrastructure. And they went to Supreme Court. The Unikrishna versus State of Andhra Pradesh, the Mohini Jain judgment was liberalized. That free and compulsory education by virtue of Article 21A of Indian Constitution, it is only subsequently 2002 86 amendment was came, but Unikrishna case what said no, up to 12 years, 14 years only free education is there, constitutional provision. Above 14 years, there is no any hard and fast rule to provide free and education, and they liberalized the Mohini Jain case, and up to the reasonable capitation fee can be collected by the managements for higher education. That is the judgment given by this. Dear students, with this I have completed directive principles of state policy. This is a very important topic. I sincerely tell you, follow my lectures sincerely. I am collecting information from various sources, not only from book. I am, dear friends, when you want to, some students ask me which book. When you want to pick up a book, you go to bookshop, see so many books. Which book is suitable to your standard, you take it and prepare that, attend classes regularly and follow my lectures. And if you after your preparation is over, if you want a good standard, you go to net and ask in mic what is the topic. You ask detailed notes, you will get so many research articles are there. There are so many students from prestigious institutions of legal studies like national law schools, prestigious private universities, and Aligal Muslim University. One lady, I must be thankful to Miss Richa Singh for writing very good articles. I have taken the help of her article for this lecture. I am seeing so many articles and collecting good information, and I am adding these articles appropriate places. Don't think that I am giving lecture directly. I am preparing like a student, and so in fact, what I am teaching to you, I don't have 50% knowledge before commencement of this class. So you just imagine, we people don't know anything. We speak about standards. Those standards means it depends upon one's taste and one's patient hearing, one's hard work only. So work hard. If without work hard, you cannot come up in life. I wish you all success. Be sincere and punctual in class. So because the 10 minutes class may be boring, but every student is supposed to sit in classroom for 5 hours for throughout the year. Unless we sit for lengthy hours, we cannot acquire knowledge, we cannot become great lawyers and great judges. Don't feel that. Try to develop patient hearing, work hard. God bless you. Wish you all success.